right? It's always been the Packers coming out of the NFC North. They've always been the dangerous team in the playoffs. The Vikings aren't getting that talk. Even though as good as they've been this season and as good as that defense has been, they haven't had that talk. And I still think that is because people believe Case Keenum is going to have that game where he's just not on it and he turns the ball over and they can't win. They can't move, can't get first downs, can't get in the end zone. And obviously, as we all know, in the playoffs, you're not going to win with field goals. We saw that last week with Buffalo and Jacksonville. That one touchdown pass in the red zone on fourth down won Jacksonville that game because Buffalo could not get in the red zone. In the playoffs, you are not going to get away with having an offense that can get in the red zone but can only kick field goals, especially when you're looking against teams like the Saints, Falcons, Patriots, and Steelers. It's just not going to happen. Now, history tells us there's going to be an upset today. History tells us that there is going to be a lower-seeded team that wins today. But the Saints don't feel like a Cinderella team, right? Even though they're a lower seed, they don't feel like an underdog playing Minnesota in Minnesota. And most people are going with Saints are going to win the NFC because the Eagles don't have Carson Wentz. And the Patriots are going to win the AFC because they're at home. And the Steelers have not won in New England in a playoff game in years. But they still got to play these games today, folks. And the last time Jacksonville and Pittsburgh played, that Jacksonville defense forced Ben Roethlisberger to throw 5 picks, and they smothered that team. Smother that team. And look, we don't know how healthy Antonio Brown is. We don't know how he's going to be going out there. Now, obviously, having Le'Veon Bell in this game is going to make a huge difference, but we don't know how healthy Antonio Brown's going to be. And chemistry is always a question there in Pittsburgh. And that's a prime difference when you compare the Patriots and the Steelers, especially the playoff time. Is the pointing of fingers, the moving on from things. And I still don't believe that Pittsburgh has moved on from that game against New England in Pittsburgh in the regular season where that touchdown got overturned and the Patriots won. I don't think they've gotten past that. Big Ben pointed the blame at the offensive coordinator in the sideline for calling the play. There's rifts of Le'Veon Bell in the front office. Le'Veon Bell said this week that if he gets tagged again at the end of this season, that he's going to walk. Usually teams that have those type of issues don't play well in the playoffs. Now, do I think the Jags are going to beat them today? No, I don't. Unless Blake Bortles cannot look like what he did last week against Buffalo, they're not going to win. Because even though that defense is a great defense, just like Minnesota, those are the top 2 defenses this season, Jacksonville and Minnesota. In the past couple Super Bowls, the team with the top 2 ranked defense, one of those teams made it to the Super Bowl. We had it with Denver, we had it with Seattle. The past couple of Super Bowls, the 2 teams going into the playoffs with the number 1 and number 2 ranked defense in the league, one of those made it to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's going to be Jacksonville. I like the Steelers today. I do think Blake Bortles is going to play better than what he did last week. But I like the Steelers today. I like the Patriots. But getting back to the Vikings and Saints. The Saints are the underdog here. They don't feel like the underdog, but they are. And look, They're fortunate to get away from Carolina. They led that game 21-6. Carolina came back, had a chance to win it late in the game. They couldn't. But the Saints have a combination of something in this game, in this playoffs, that really no other team has right now. And that's a passing game and a running game. The Saints in the playoffs, when you look at the remaining teams, they're really the only legitimate running and passing team. Atlanta's gotten better down the stretch, but the Saints have that combination. But that's all people have been talking about. And I think Minnesota's been paying attention to that. Case Keenum has been paying attention to that. And they're saying, look, everybody thinks the Saints are better. Everybody thinks the Saints are going to go to the Super Bowl. Nobody is talking about us. I like the Vikings tomorrow to beat the Saints. Now we get the Eagles and Falcons who are playing right now. Falcons lead by 3. Eagles are another team that everybody has written off before this game even started. Everybody said, I think Tony Dungy was the only one that I heard pick Philly to win this game. And again, that's because of the quarterback. They don't believe Nick Foles can beat Atlanta, and that's what it comes down to. If Carson Wentz was in this game, Philly would be the favorite. The majority of people would be picking Philly. But Atlanta is the lowest seeded team right now. 9-7 next to Tennessee. But talking about Atlanta right now, they're obviously the team, the 9-7 quote unquote Cinderella team, if you want to consider them that could get back. And just think about this. This is a team that a couple weeks ago was on the brink of being eliminated from the playoffs. People said that offense isn't moving. Matt Ryan isn't playing well. Steve Sarkisian as the coordinator isn't calling good plays. They can't get the running game going. And they went in and beat the Rams in LA with another great defense. And I think that surprised a lot of people. And I don't think, people, well, it has to do with environment and knowing your territory and being there before. No. The Rams just didn't play good. I don't think that Atlanta just finally opened up that offense and got Julio Jones the ball and got that running game going. I don't think that game had anything to do with Atlanta's been there before, Matt Ryan and them have been there before, and Jared Goff and the Rams haven't. I don't think that had anything to do with it. Atlanta just finally got moving. And Atlanta feels like that team. They feel like that team that nobody really thinks, like people know that they're dangerous, but nobody really thinks, oh, they're going to be there. They can go all the way. They can win the NFC. And I do like them against Philly. They're playing right now on NBC. And I'm not taking them because, Foles is in the game and Wentz isn't. I just like where that Atlanta offense is right now. They got a running game. Philly, there's questions there. Later in the season, Blunt and Jay Ajayi really weren't carrying the ball like they were. Nick Foles at times looked great, and then at other times he looked like that Nick Foles back when he was with the Rams. Just couldn't get completions, turning the ball over. So again, out of the games this weekend, I like Falcons, I like Patriots, I like Steelers, I like Vikings. Going back to last week, just for a second, I know this was, again, a week ago. In that Saints and Panthers game, Cam Newton takes a ugly hit. A hit that he should have been taken out of the game for. He gets up, he goes to the sidelines, and he clearly stumbles and falls down. And if you look at the hit, his head runs right into the defender. No concussion protocol. No check. And this is what I don't like about this. Is the sideline and the coaches will sit there and say, well, Cam said it was his eye. Or that it was his knee. That it wasn't his head. If you have a player that you see gets hit like that, and then stumbles and falls to the ground as he's trying to get to the sideline, regardless of what that player says, whether he says it's his eye, his foot, his shoulder, regardless, he should automatically, right then at that moment, go into concussion protocol. In the Chiefs-Titans game, Kelce got rocked. Couldn't stand. He had a teammate trying to help him stand. He tried to stay on the field. It was the referee, not the Kansas City sideline. It was the referee, and applause to that referee, who pulled him and said, no, stop the game. He's got to go. He's hurt. Ended up having a concussion, didn't return to the game. And this is where the refs need to have that authority. And I do honestly think that some refs are worried, especially in the playoffs, to stop a game and to tell a head coach and to tell a team, I don't care what that player says. I don't care if he says it's his eye or his shoulder. He's staggering to stand up. He needs to go into concussion protocol. What that ref did in that Kansas City game with Travis Kelce was the right thing to do. And that is what somebody should have done in that Carolina game against New Orleans. When Cam Newton took that hit and he struggled to get up, somebody should have got in right at that moment and said, no. I don't care if he's your star player. I don't care if he's your best shot to win right now. He just got rocked. He's obviously hurt. He needs to be checked out. And then at that point, whatever. At that point, the ref has done his job. They have done the best that they can do. If the team doctors want to send the player back in, all right, okay. You're going to get fines. You're going to get whatever. And Carolina is getting investigated for this. And in my opinion, it was a clear mistreatment of a concussion protocol. They didn't follow it. Cam got rocked. He couldn't stand after the play. And they let him stay in the game. It shouldn't have happened. We saw this a couple weeks ago at the end of the regular season when Russell Wilson got rocked, went into the tent for about 2 seconds, and then threw the tent up and walked out. And that's a whole other story there with what's going on in Seattle. You talk about teams that have fallen off. That's a team that has fallen off drastically. And when you have the offensive coordinator being criticized, and then you have a teammate, a player for Seattle, saying it's not the coordinator's fault, well, who are you pointing the finger at then? Sounds like you're pointing the finger to Russell Wilson. And Wilson is a guy that recently has been criticized by his teammates. We heard about the spat with Richard Sherman. We heard about other players speaking out about him. There's issues there. And that's going to be interesting going into the offseason and moving forward. And then you have the Chiefs. Matt Nagy, offensive coordinator. He's now the Bears head coach. But here's another team, 21-6 lead, and can't hold it. Titans come back and beat them. And I just don't understand that type of play calling. And if you're Andy Reid, if you're the head coach, at that moment, you need to take over and say, we need to run the ball. What are we doing here? We're up 21-6. Run the damn